And we are live. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with our first breaking news live show of the MLB offseason regarding a player the Mets have signed. This time, their first splash of MLB free agency is none other than the man that they were linked with over the past 2 weeks, and that is longtime New York Yankee, now turned New York Met, and Luis Severino. We have talked at great length about Sevy, and we will continue to do just that, giving a thorough breakdown on this signing. As breaking news, the Mets have signed him to a one-year, $13 million deal for the veteran right-hander who's going to be now staying in New York, this time in the rival borough here in Flushing, Queens with the New York Metropolitans. I want to see your initial reactions live here in the chat right now, so make sure to spam them. Make sure to spam those like and subscribe buttons. Greatly appreciate your number one source for all Mets news, rumors, all that fun stuff that we love to do here on WardyNYM, the largest Mets community here on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY. Again, happy to have you all in here. We have a lot to get into this, and yes, I have plenty to say. I have positives to say on this. I have negatives to say on this move. But more than anything, the first thing that stands out to me is the fact that it is a one-year deal. It does not look like it's going to be anything more than that. Certainly something that I'm in favor of. Now, if this was, say, a deal where if it was 2-3 years, and I think we have more of a concern level. But given the Mets' lack of available arms in their current rotation, they need to add pitching. We know this for absolute certain, but now they bring in a starting pitcher here that will hopefully be towards the back end of the rotation. Should the Mets have Luis Severino as their number 3 to begin 2024, I'll be the first to tell you that that's ridiculous. I do not foresee that happening whatsoever, and that was truly the only biggest concerns I have with Sevy would be, one, what is the exact type of contract we're working with should the Mets sign him, and two, how is he going to be utilized? The fact that he's the first domino of starting pitching that the Mets have landed to fall leads me to believe that, of course, the Mets are going to land more starting pitching this offseason. They're heavily interested in on Yamamoto. They have heavy interest, of course, there in Jordan Montgomery. They have shown recent interest, reportedly Michael Mayer today stating that the Mets do have a level of interest in Eduardo Rodriguez. So they're very active in the starting pitching market. They have a lot to do here, but more than anything, I'm just happy to have you in here more than anything. This is not a splash at all. Oh, I didn't say that this is if I said this is a big splash, I do not mean that. This is a signing that the Mets certainly needed for their rotation, but yes, there are definitely rightful criticisms and concerns go into it, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about as well. Also had full intentions of going live in an hour and a half or so, around 8, might have to push that towards closer to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Michael Marino will be discussing more on this signing for the Mets, along with all the other latest in Mets land. So we're going to be breaking down more on Luis Severino. We're going to get into the latest on Yamamoto, Jordan Montgomery, Eduardo Rodriguez, Shohei Ohtani, everyone and their mother is what we're going to be discussing and breaking down. But initially, what I want to know, I will say this, don't get me wrong, this may come off as an overpay, guys, but any pitcher available in the free agent market that's a starter is getting at least $10 million. That is what's happening, given the signs that we've seen of Lance Lynn and, of course, of Kyle Gibson with the Cardinals. That is a going rate for starting pitching, given how expensive it is. So I'm not shocked that Sevy's getting at least 10 here. 13, you could say, okay, might be an overpay, but in reality, what does it matter to you when, one, this is Steve Cohen's money, and two, this is not going to preclude the Mets from going out and still landing more pitching? If that were the case, if this was the Wilpons, this is the biggest splash that they would make all offseason, right? The same way that the Wilpons on Brody Van Wagenen land Dylan Betances, who I, didn't like that move from the beginning, and we see how that worked. This is a different situation, but I can understand the similarities just as a former Yank, guys dealt with injury concerns, and now is coming over to the Mets here. But one thing I do definitely want to make clear when evaluating this move for the Mets, landing Luis Severino on this one-year, $13 million deal, is that the Mets clearly made this move because of their desperation for pitching. They're going to be adding levels and tiers of pitching. No one should be viewing this as saying, hey, okay, they landed Severino, that means that they're completely out of it on Yamamoto or Monty. These guys are in different tiers, and we've evaluated from the beginning. Tier number 1, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Tier number 2, Blake Snell, Monty, and then you could throw in Eduardo Rodriguez there, given how, top heavy the free agent class is for starting pitching. Then you get on from there where you have more guys where Luis Severino fell in that category, like a Kyle Gibson, like a Sean Manaea, those types where you're going to land them on short-term deals, solid AAV, and see what you can get from them for at least 1 year. And he's absolutely injury prone. There is no denying that. Again, we have talked at great length about Severino already this offseason. I know that tomorrow's show is going to be hilarious for my man. We're planning to do the Bridging the Gap podcast tomorrow night, myself and Patrick Hennessy. Pat, who is a Yankees fan. He brings a Yankees element into the channel when we do the back and forth talking all things Mets and Yanks. He's going to rip me an absolute new one, and justifiably so, because this has happened, and he was pretty much saying this shouldn't happen, and it is going to happen. So I have plenty more to say on this, but I want to know your initial reactions to my north of 1,000 live viewers in the chat. And of course, continue to smash that like and subscribe button. Greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much in advance. Let's see. Yoshima with $2 Hollow says, at worst, long reliever, but let Hef cook to fix him. Yes, we'll see, of course, what happens on the Severino front. And I do believe that this will be, of course, the first of many dominoes that we may see happen before the week's end. You know, by the time we get to Sunday, I have a feeling that we're going to see multiple moves. And this reaffirms what, you know, whether you like him or not, Andy Martino did tweet out earlier today that the Mets are on the verge of signing someone, not a star-level player, and doesn't know who it is, but does know that is happening soon. He was right. It ended up being Luis Severino, however, again, landing with the Mets on this one-year, $13 million deal. Now, to get into the numbers on Sevy, I'm going to show you them. Of course, you know, bear warning, you're not going to love what you see from his 2023 stat line, which is exactly why he's only signing on a one-year deal here. But let me show you guys exactly what is going on with Severino to this point for those that aren't aware, that haven't checked out previous content or anything like that. But again, first chiming in, happy to have all you beauties in here as we're breaking down the latest news that is the Mets have signed Luis Severino to a one-year, $13 million contract. There you go. So there is a stat line on Sevy. Again, brutal, and I mean absolutely disgusting 2023 campaign. I'm going to call it how it is. You know, I've had many followers and supporters of mine say, hey, Tyler, you're glazing every single move the Mets do. You know, you should not be doing this, all this stuff. Also, thank you for donation. John, $2 Hollow says, cue the clip of Tim Robinson say, what the? Thank you so much for that. Yoshima, thank you for the donation about, you know, at worst, he could be a long reliever. Yep, that's certainly a possibility. Gates, thank you so much for a $5 Hollow. And again, folks, if you'd like questions answered, it's far easier for me to do that, of course, through donations. Again, not asking you guys to donate, but when we have big live shows like this where there's a lot of viewers, naturally I cannot answer every comment. So if there's anything specifically you want me to get to, of course, this is the easiest way to make that happen. Thank you so much for donations. Says Mets have like 2 starting pitchers on the rotation. We need arms. Not a bad sign with more to come. I tend to agree. Grant, how you doing, my man? Shout out to my man, formerly at Jenny Mets. What an absolute beauty he is. But let's look at the stat line. You see it. He pitched just under 20 games this past year, not even 100 innings, dealing with ailments, a north of 7 ERA, a north of 6 expected ERA, SI ERA north of 5, and not pretty numbers whatsoever. But what we do know about Severino prior to the 2023 season, when he's healthy, he certainly has a nice repertoire with his arsenal. What he struggled mightily with this year wasn't only his health, which is something where I'd imagine that went in hand with how he was evaluated this offseason. The medicals, I'm hoping, are coming back clean, all these things. But when evaluating him in particular, you have to look at not only the struggles that he has had in years past with his health, but the success level he has had when he has been out there. What has been different this year versus years past when he's dealt with injuries has went directly in hand with the command. It really looked brutal. I'm going to be completely blunt. I watch a couple Severino starts this year, of course, not as much as a Yankee fan would be. Keith, can we appreciate if the spam would stop? That'd be greatly appreciated, so I don't have to mute you or anything. But he looked like Carlos Carrasco at plenty of points this year. And what do I mean by that? Giving up bombs early. The game looking like it's over before it started. Like, I had plenty of enjoyment seeing Severino blow it up with the Yanks this year. So talk about a smack in my face. Shame on me. This is what I get, I guess, for, you know, talking down on certain guys and then they end up coming here. Regardless, I'm interested to see how Severino is going to work out. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm excited about this move because I'm not excited about this move. I'm not excited about a whole lot until we find out more information this MLB free agency and MLB offseason. Who else are the Mets going to land? How is this rotation going to round out? So that's why I'm not going to have too much judgment at the moment, however, because there are plenty more dominoes that need to fall. This is just the beginning of exactly it. But Sevy, you see from the numbers there, again, career numbers, very solid, very respectable. And he's only at the age of 29. So again, there's plenty upside there with him. He's a guy where there's definitely risk involved, but there's certainly high upside should you be able to get back him to a similar form to what he's had when he's been able to, one, be healthy, but two, be productive out there in his previous years there with the New York Yankees. But continue to let me know your thoughts, everybody. Happy to have you in here. And again, I understand the concerns. Trust me, I'm not going to be that fan to sit here and say, oh, now because the Mets got him, I absolutely love the move. I like the move as long as he is competing that 4-5 spot and it's a one-year deal. That is the appealing aspect of it and the track record prior to 2023. What do I not like about it? It's all the obvious things that we have just discussed. Between one, one, the injury concern. The past 4+ years of his career, he has struggled to stay on the field. Number two, it's also the fact that this is, in essence, a Yankees castaway, and you have to wonder how much of this is the Yankees having no interest in bringing Sevy back. Was there interest level in bringing Sevy back, as the Yanks would certainly like to add to the rotation still? Or was this more of a situation where it makes sense for both teams to part with each other because there were some conflicting reports and issues between how the medical staff approached Sevy over the past couple years and how Sevy certainly was not happy with being injury played as much as he was? Was this really coming down to, okay, it just makes more sense for these two to part here versus, say, the Yanks having no interest? That's a question mark I have, but naturally you're going to have the label saying, okay, another Yankee has-been is coming over and is washed here with the New York Mets. So until proven otherwise, he's going to stick with that label, and we're going to have to deal with it as fans. That's the reality of it. But what I should emphasize again here is that there is still plenty upside with Luis Severino, and I'm happy that the Mets are going to take on a little bit of a reclamation project, a bounce-back candidate for the 2024 season. It's someone that is at the age of 29 and not someone that is north of 40. So if we're picking in that essence, age-wise potential, that is certainly the case here with Luis Severino signing, again, a one-year, $13 million deal to now be a New York Metropolitan. I'm going to get to your donations soon. Thank you all so much for them as well. This is going to be a short stream. It won't be a long-winded one. I think we'll probably go anywhere between a half hour to tops an hour, because I'm still planning to go live with Michael Marino tonight at 8 or latest 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have to shoot him a text probably while we're doing the live show to make sure that this is all structured. See, I'm getting texts from my man Joe and others saying effing Severino. So I understand the appeal or lack thereof with this move for the Mets, but continue to let me know your thoughts as you're first chiming into the breaking news. That is, they've signed him to a $13 million deal over 1 year. And bear with me 1 second, everybody, as I'm just trying to get everything to acclimate at the moment. Alrighty, folks, let's get into this one. Bearded Sevy. Who knows? Maybe that is all Severino needs. Maybe he just needs to grow out the facial hair, because the Yanks, with their old school mind, God forbid if you had facial hair, you got to cut it off right away. So maybe a bearded Sevy could be the answer, should he rock it this year. You know, there's no guarantee that he will. But more than anything, I'm really just interested. Again, there isn't an overwhelming excitement level here. There isn't like, oh my goodness gracious, this guy's going to be absolutely horrendous. I'm just interested. I'm curious. You know, I think it goes without saying, as Mets fans, we're used to this being a situation where we're left with question marks with players the team acquires. And as a surprise to absolutely nobody, we find ourselves in that situation again. But once more, I'm happy about the fact, knowing that the Mets are certainly going to add more starting pitching this offseason. Now, if this was a situation where, say, hey, Yamamoto was already off the board, Monty was already off the board, Erod was already off the board, Snell was already off the board, the Mets didn't land any of these guys, and then they land Monty, then I would be absolutely fuming. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Out of all the options out there, you decide to settle with Severino? You couldn't land any of those other guys? And don't get me wrong, nothing is guaranteed. There is a world where the Mets do not land a Yamamoto or a Monty, but it's very hard to believe the Mets will not at minimum land one of the three in Yamamoto, Montgomery, Erod. And of course, in a perfect world, you'd like to land at least two of the three. But again, that's a perfect world. That is not reality. If things were perfect, then us Mets fans wouldn't have went through the trials and tribulations that we have throughout our fandom. And for me, it's not nearly as difficult as is the case for many of you more diehard season fans that have been fans for the past, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, right? There's certainly a difference level there, but still interesting one. A serviceable 4 or 5 star. Are you insane, Jacob? I don't know what's happening there in the back and forth in the live show. No one, great member. How you doing? Juan, MVP, Scott, Kish, everyone first chiming in live on our replay. Continue to let me know your thoughts on this move that the Mets have brought in Luis Severino on, yes, a 1-year deal. Okay, Mike, thank you so much for the donation. Wardy, talk to me, brother. Make me not hate this move. I don't think you should hate this move. I don't think there's a reason to hate it. I would argue that you can absolutely hate it if the Mets struck out on everyone else and their mother, and then they landed Severino. But this is the first domino to fall for what is going to be an unbelievably hectic Mets offseason. We're going to talk at great length about every single transaction and move that, of course, transpires. But this one is the first domino. We have plenty more to get to. I expect more moves before winter meetings even next week. And we're going to be going live for guys that don't even necessarily potentially land with the Mets because, of course, the Otanis of the world in particular, potentially the Yamamotos, among others guys the Mets have been linked to, should they not land in Queens, we're going to go live for those as well and discuss why did the Mets not necessarily land them, what's next for them this MLB offseason. So a lot of things coming, but Mike, to answer your question, there really isn't a reason to hate this move aside from just his horrendous lack of success that we saw at times in the 2023 season and the injury prone. But knowing that he's not going to be the Mets frontlining ace for 2024 certainly sits well with me. If you're going to take a flyer on a guy, I can understand the upside potential here in someone like him at the age of 29 and the success, the track record he had prior to the 2023 season. And as we actually take a look at his numbers, I'm on Fangraphs right now, so I'm going to pull this up just a little bit more as my computer is, of course, running at a snail's pace. God forbid it did what I needed to do in the most opportune time. Let's see. I like the sign Wardy, says Ramon. Now Uncle Steve need to go after Soto. The Mets are involved in the Soto trade talk front, but no one should be getting their hopes up on that happening right now. Nothing has indicated that the Mets are a frontliner to potentially land Soto. It has been the New York Yankees, and I think at this rate, we will be surprised if Soto does not land with the Yanks. Again, anything can happen, but there's a difference versus the free agent trade market versus the free agent market, because free agent market, Mets can control a lot more there with the dollars that they spend. Trade market, it's tough because you're giving up assets. And do the Mets have assets enough what the Padres are looking for? Padres, we've heard names already today, Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe thrown out there, along with a Clark Schmidt and a Michael King, just to name a few. I don't see the Mets currently in a position where they're going to be ponying up an offer that's going to be appealing for the Padres to the extent in which it may be with the Yanks. Again, we will see. We will find out. Who wouldn't love Juan Soto on their club? But I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, the Mets have a great shot at landing him, because there's been nothing to indicate that aside from the Mets having plenty interest. Interest and actually going all in to land someone are two different things. So until we find out more on the Juan Soto front, that is where I'm currently standing, just based on the reports that we've seen to this point. But again, guys, in case you're first chiming in and you want to know a little bit about Severino and the unfortunate season he had in 2023 and what he has done throughout his career, then I'm going to change this up real quick. Bear with me. Put that right there. There you go. More numbers for Sevy that I'm sure you guys probably don't like to see from this past season. Carrasco had a 6-point ERA last year, same as Sevy, just saying 13 mil who hasn't pitched more than 19 games since 2019 is wild. Why would that change now? So the reason why he's getting this money is because of how top heavy this pitching market is. So guys that have had their struggles but have had also success and have age on their side are going to benefit in this free agent market. That is most certainly the case here with Luis Severino signing with the Mets. The money truly means very little to me because we all knew that any decent to average, if not even below average starter was getting at least 10 mil per year on a contract. So that is exactly why Sevy is getting this money. That it's just how the market is currently shaping up. Would he have gone less elsewhere? Maybe. It's possible. Maybe the Mets had to make sure they threw in another mil or two to land him because we don't know how broad of a market Severino had. Well, we did know when the Mets initially had interest that the Mets were one of multiple teams showing interest and were planning to meet with him in the coming days. These are reports that came out over the past 2 weeks, mind you. So clearly those negotiations, those discussions went well. And for Severino, of course he doesn't want to leave New York just yet. He would like the idea of still staying in the area with his family. So that too becomes an appeal. And I do have to wonder, and we'll find out more later tonight, potentially heading into tomorrow in the coming days, what were the key factors for Severino here and his Mets interest? I'd imagine that they were all the ones I just listed to you, but of course we're not going to know for certain until we find out more info. Talk down on Yamamoto, maybe he'll come. That's a funny way of thinking, Enrique. It's certainly a funny way of thinking. And Sandy, happy to have you in here. Let me make sure I'm not missing any other donations at the moment. Again, appreciate all the donations. Thank you all so much for the endless support. As you guys know, we go live as much as we possibly can, as quick, as fast as we can with all breaking news that happens. You know, I was fully prepared and prepped for a move to happen today. I did not think it was going to be Severino, but I did think it was going to be a pitcher. I was leaning more of a reliever. That was just my honest opinion at the time. So the Mets get a guy. And speaking of relievers, Luis Severino could end up being a reliever for the Mets, depending on how his 2024 campaign goes, on top of what else the Mets do this MLB offseason. Sevy may fit best either as a number 5 or a swingman in a 6 spot should they land a Yamamoto, where you're going to need a 6-man rotation. You need as much arms as humanly possible in that situation, and a guy like him who has had previous success coming out of the pen like he did in 2021 a couple years ago with the Yanks. I could see that again for the Mets. Again, if that ends up being the case, especially if, say, the Mets build a nice roster, go on a nice run this year. Again, they won't be the best team in baseball. No one's expecting that. But if they go on a nice run and do truly find themselves in playoff contention, Sevy could be a guy that down the stretch may be coming out of the pen, especially if they make playoffs. That wouldn't shock me whatsoever. But what would shock me at this rate is the Mets going out and landing, let's say both Ohtani and Yamamoto. I do not foresee that happening. I think the Mets will be very fortunate and lucky if they land one of the two. Ohtani, Yamamoto, we're going to talk at more length later tonight, our separate live stream it, and also going to get into it more so tomorrow for the Bridging the Gap podcast. Every time Wardy goes off stream, some kind of deal happens. Well, it makes you feel any better, and Sandy, after I'm done with this live show, it won't be long until I go live again tonight. So I think we're going to be able to figure that out without a problem. Let me see here. Josh, thank you so much for a donation. Josh says, of every starting pitcher who threw 80 plus innings in 2023, just 8 had a larger ERA expected FIP difference than Luis Severino. It's one of the few bright spots to point out from last year. City is good park for him to end up in. That is also another factor that I'm actually really happy you brought up, Joshua. Thank you for that donation. This is a pitcher's park in Queens. We all know that. No one looks at Citi Field and says, wow, this is a batter's box. Farthest thing from it. So if you're evaluating that as well, that certainly doesn't hurt Severino's chances for to have a nice bounce back year. And he doesn't have to deal with that nonsensical short porch in right field that is famously known there in the Bronx and Yankee Stadium. So when you keep in those factors in mind, yes, the home run rate should hopefully go down. And on top of that, if he can be healthy, we may be seeing a Severino where there's a lack of pressure on his shoulders like years prior, because every single year, and I don't, enlighten me how you guys feel as fellow fans. And I know a lot of you guys, we have Yankees fans watching, but for not only Yankees fans, but people who are friends of Yankees fans, I want to know, enlighten me. Have you also heard for the past 4 years that, if Sevy's healthy, this rotation is going to be disgusting? I remember hearing, going all the way back to, my final days in high school, people saying, hey, Sevy's going to lead the way this year. Even after getting Garrett Cole, hey, Garrett and Sevy, they're going to be insane, right? He's going to be healthy. He's going to be good to go. And he's going to rock. Reminds me, to a certain degree, of being a Mets fan and really saying how Jacob deGrom, if he's healthy, we're cooking. It's over for the league, right? And that was the issue. He just couldn't stay healthy now. Now, there's definitely a difference here between Jake and Sevy, no denying that. But the point stands, these are two guys in their own right that have struggled to stay healthy for multiple years now. And when they are healthy, when they are on the field, they are productive. And when we take a look at Severino's numbers outside of the 2023 season, there are certainly things to highlight, which consist of the following. In 2022, an 100 innings pitch had a 3.18 ERA with a 3 expected ERA. Then we look in 2021, again, only pitched 6 innings in that small sample size as a reliever. 2019, 12 innings, 1.5 ERA, but 12 innings, no one gives a shit about that. 191 innings in the 2018 season, and that's where Sevy had his second best season to the date with a 3.39 ERA and 3.76 expected ERA. But then we're going all the way to 2017 and 2018. 2017 was his first big year in the bigs. 193 innings, a sub 3 ERA. I mean, he was a borderline Cy Young type pitcher in the 2017-2018 year, but he has been a shell of that because what is the most important thing in baseball with sports as a whole? It's availability. And Luis Severino has not proven to be able to do exactly that. Again, he pitched 191 innings in 2018. Since then, he has pitched just over 200 innings since 2018. We're talking total. So from 2019 to 2023, he has pitched a total of just over 200 innings. That is, of course, the concern. That is why Severino is no longer a Yank. That is why he was only signing on a 1-year deal. He has proving to do. And if Severino doesn't work out, the beauty of it, the Mets are going to have no problems cutting ties with him. It will not be the end of the world whatsoever. The Mets are not going to allow Severino to go all season being absolute dog you-know-what. They're going to reach a decision at some point. If he's off to a horrendous start, they try working on him, and by the deadline, he's still struggling mightily, then at that point, I'd imagine he'll be transferred to the pen, or he could even be parted with potentially. Steve Cohen doesn't mind eating money as long as it means that it's going to be for the betterment of the club. So while there are question marks that surround Severino, this is not a Will Ponzian regime where we're like, oh my goodness, we have to deal with this guy for certain every 5th day, no matter the results. That may not be true depending on how he starts his Mets tenure in 2024. Let's see here. Matthew, thank you so much for $5 holla. Y'all need to chill. Just because we have Cohen doesn't mean every sign will be a superstar. That's not realistic. This is a good, cheap pickup. Have faith. Thank you, Matthew, for the donation. And no, you're 100% right in regards to the Mets are not going to have a huge splash every single time. That is not going to happen. That's the reality of it. Ryan, I did answer your donation from earlier, my friend, about Carrasco and his ERA. So if you missed that, please make sure to check it out again. Again, thank you all so much in advance. Let's see. Thank you. Please thank Ryan for the alleged donation. I did. Kish, I missed you're missing a dono, not mine though. I'm almost certain it was Ryan. I touched on it, Ryan. Hold on, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan Clifford. Ryan Clifford. I addressed it right. Ryan Clifford for president. As long as that's the same one, then we're good. Hey, you didn't acknowledge my donation. I did, Ryan. I did. I did earlier. I talked about it already, and I discussed the Carrasco stuff. Thank you for the donation, though. I appreciate that again. There you go, Ryan. You got it. And I went out of focus now, so that's just fantastic. There you go. Getting a little Wardy ASMR up close. My camera, whenever it gets out of focus, I gotta zoom in a little bit. But guys, how you feeling? Let's check the poll in the live chat. We're almost a half hour into this bad boy already, and we're not going to be dragging this on too long. I'm just more than anything, I'm just really, really interested how everyone is feeling at the moment about this move. And also, please, please, please don't hesitate from hitting that like and subscribe button. We're also close to 25,000 subscribers for our next short-term goal that we're trying to hit before the year's end. So thank you all so much in advance for the endless support. Hit that like button to my 700-800 live concurrent viewers. If we could get ourselves to 300 plus likes by the end of the live show, would really mean a lot to me. And thank you all in advance. And also, again, stay tuned because we will be live again right around 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right around there. As long as no other breaking news happens regarding the Mets during that time, that is when we're planning to go live again to break down the latest. More on not only Severino, but also getting into the latest on Yamamoto, Monty, Erod, and so much more. You want to know what's funny, guys? I did a video that's ready, was supposed to come out today. I'm going to have to push that to at least tomorrow, if not the following day, regarding a certain outfielder that may have just become available via trade. So be on the lookout for that. I'm planning to drop that early tomorrow, barring any changes. Really just teetering if I want to do that, if I want to talk more about Eduardo Rodriguez. It depends on how in-depth we get in tonight's live show with Michael Mayer. Tangus, thank you for $2 holla. High upside. Give Bauer a chance, proven innocent. Okay, regardless of all the off-field things regarding Trevor Bauer, I want nothing to do with him in Queens because I want nothing to do with the distraction, okay? That's the reality of it. Trevor Bauer had to put on pardon my French, a fucking circus for his build-up. And you know what? That was fun and all. And it was great traction on the channel. That was the first breakout live show here on WardyNYM 3 off seasons ago. We even had the company that he represents, Momentum, in the live chat with me. But after going through that nonsense as is, I don't care, truly, where Bauer's at with his talent level. There are other options out there. And the last thing the Mets need is any potential more controversy. Not saying that he would bring any, but naturally with the type of person, the personality that he has, there's just a lack of interest there for me. I've completely flipped. And again, it has nothing to do with the off the field stuff because I know what he was accused of and what has been taken down since then. And it's a very unfortunate situation. I know that the MLB outed him from the beginning because Manfred couldn't handle the fact that he was talking shit saying, hey, you're letting sticky substance happen where guys are manipulating baseballs and having clear advantage. I'm going to do it and win a Cy Young and show it in your face. Shove it in your face. That's what Bauer did. And he deserves all credit for that because the MLB did nothing. But then they, of course, turned on him as soon as they were able to find out about that because MLB's rules are separate from what is actually happening in the law today in this country. So that's where I'll leave you with Bauer. I got no interest. None. I don't care. I really don't. Really don't. You know how frustrating and annoying it is for us fans to have to deal with any type of controversy? The Mets are always, every single year, one way or the other, finding themselves in the LO Mets category. I'm fed up with that BS. I want nothing to do with it. And if he's going to, at all, be a risk of providing that, that's enough for me to say no. Someone needs a table mic stand. Dude, I literally have the Shure SM7B right here. The issue is that I've been having audio issues. It's been popping. It's been echoey too much. I've been troubleshooting with it, but I have the go-to podcaster mic right here, but I use it every now and then, just not consistently, because since I brought it back after being away a couple months ago, it has not been the same. And I'm sure there's a simple fix for it, and I'm just not sophisticated or smart enough in that field to understand. So once I'm able to have more time to commit to it, I will certainly do that. Mets are in business now. Yes, they absolutely are. Again, not a crazy move by any stretch, but certainly a move to help to add to their rotation, to say the least. Bauer's a better option than Sevy. He may very well be, but I don't care. I think that's the reality of it. Like that, you're asking for my opinion. I don't care. Really don't. I'm going to be completely frank. And on top of that, I think for Bauer and his best interest, if he does sign with an MLB club, which I do not anticipate happening in that offseason, if I'm being honest with you, because of the things I just explained to you, him back in Arizona where he started his career, I think could make a lot of sense. That's where Momentum, his company, is based. That's where he resides as well. That's where Eric Sim resides. It makes a lot of sense. And hey, you know, the D-backs just had a great run. They could use more pitching. They could add to make their team better than it was last year. That is a fit I could see, but not in a big market like here with the Mets in New York. If you need any help with audio stuff, please let me know. I got you, Nolan. Thank you so much for that, brother. Will do. Double duty indeed. Shout out to my man Subway to Shea. Please make sure to subscribe to him wherever you get your podcasts. Anthony Rivera is a fantastic Mets mind out there. A good friend of mine. Had the privilege of being on his podcast the other day. Literally just came out a couple days ago. We touched a bit on Sevy and all these other options out there. So while that in itself is now no longer needed, there's a lot of stuff on all the MLB offseason as a whole for you guys to check out and chime in on my thoughts and Anthony's thoughts, which are always superb. So please make sure to check them out. Shout out to you to Ant for being in here as always. To take a Wardy word, Bauer's a schmuck. Thank you. That's basically what I'm getting at. Yes. Ricky, $5 haul, my favorite channel. What are your thoughts if we don't get Yamamoto? Thank you so much, Ricky. Love you, brother. You've been an endless supporter of mine. You and it looks like your wife or girlfriend, the photo, you guys look like a fantastic couple. So shout out to you, Ricky. Always appreciate your support. If we don't get Yamamoto, then it's very, very, very important that you land Jordan Montgomery and or A-Rod. Make a trade for a starter as well. That is what I would like to see the Mets do if they lose out on Yamamoto. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, the Mets are so in on Yamamoto that we very well can see where they land him. However, what I am drawing an increasing concern with is Shohei Ohtani. We know Ohtani's going to probably sign within the next week. That feels inevitable or close to. Either at the end of this week or sometime during the winter meetings next week because things are really starting to pick up there. If Ohtani does not go to the LA Dodgers, I have a true concern that could play in hand with the Mets not landing Yamamoto. The reason why I say this, and I'll expand on this more later tonight in our separate show, is that this is a Dodgers team that is desperate, would love to have both Ohtani and Yamamoto. They really love Ohtani. They've been scouting him for years, just has been the case with Brian Cashman and the Yanks. But this is a Dodgers team that has purposely not signed Trey Turner and has saved money over the past year in a Ohtani pursuit. So if Ohtani goes elsewhere, wherever that may be, rest assured the Dodgers are going to go all in, furthermore than they currently would be for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So again, while Yamamoto definitely is a strong possibility to land in Queens, there is also a very real reality that the Mets do not land him if he, say, decides to go elsewhere. Maybe he has a preference to go out west. Maybe he has a preference to be with the Bronx because he grew up a Yanks fan and idolized the idea of being in pinstripes to a degree. Like, there are factors that the Mets can't control per se, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. Truthfully, and I'm being so wholeheartedly truthful, a part of me rathers Ohtani go to the Dodgers if that'll mean that'll help push them out of the Yamamoto sweepstakes. Because that is a concern level for me. Dodgers have a shit ton of money to spend right now, as do the Mets and other clubs. But unlike other clubs, the Mets still have 11 roster spots to fix at the moment. They just revamped their front office. They just revamped their coaching staff. They have so much to do once again in another offseason. And because of this could be a lack of appeal for certain players. Or it could be a lack of appeal for the Mets to want to go to the level that other teams will go, a true desperation level, when they know they have so much to do just to be competitive for the 2024 season. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but yeah, Ohtani sweepstakes, what happens there will most certainly have an impact on what happens elsewhere in baseball. So just want to throw that out there. Again, I want Yoshinobu Yamamoto more than life itself at the moment to help for this rotation. I truly think he is 1000% the guy you go out of your way to get, but nothing is a guarantee. We have learned that the hard way over recent years. So let's just see how this one plays out. And again, thank you kindly, Ricky, for that donation. Appreciate my north of 900 viewers in the live chat. Again, guys, make sure you chime into our second live show tonight discussing more on Luis Severino, discussing more on all the latest news and rumors in Mets land with my absolute man, good friend of mine, and a fantastic independent MLB reporter over the past couple years, Michael Marino, who you can follow on Twitter at MarinoMLB. Does a fantastic job, has been on the money, and you'll be seeing me reference him plenty this MLB offseason, and for good reason. Let's see where we're at in the poll, though. I meant to say that earlier, but my dumbass just probably got sidetracked. ADHD kicking in. 50 likes away already from 300. Thank you guys so much for that. Continue to smash that like and subscribe button. We are likely going to get out of here in the next 10 minutes tops, so please make sure to continue to let me know your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, everything on the Luis Severino front, how you're feeling. Make sure to let me know so I can answer as many as I can over the next 5 to 10 minutes before we wrap things up for this one of 2 live shows tonight. Mets signed Sevy. Thoughts out of almost 1,000 votes. 22% love it. Almost 60% say depends on other moves, and 19% say not a fan regardless. So the majority here are in the same mindset that I am, where I will like this move for Sevy if he's going to be competing in that number 4, number 5 spot, maybe even number 6 should you land Yamamoto, and you of course still address the rotation properly outside of him. But if the Mets do not address the rotation properly outside of him, and he is, say, the Mets number 3 next year, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be. I may be optimistic like I am every year, but I'm most certainly going to feel underwhelmed as a fan. So I'm glad that it seems like most of us are in unison here. 60% of the votes thus far are falling in the category like mine, where I like this move depending on what happens elsewhere. Juan Diaz with the $5 house says Sevy isn't bad. If he's a depth piece, I pray this isn't a transitionary year. Stearns likes to grow talent, not really known for free agency. I'm worried. If it makes you feel any better, the only reason why he is not known for free agency is because the Milwaukee Brewers are schmucks and don't want to spend money. That isn't because of David Stearns' lack of willingness to spend. He doesn't have the resources. He's been in effing Milwaukee. Brewers fans will tell you first they're lucky to get what? A potato chip, a pickle, a tissue, whatever, a penny rather, not a pickle. The game's all here, if you know the SpongeBob episode. Like, those are the types of things that the Brewers are known for doing in the offseason. It's more mid to lower level moves. They're not as common to make those big splashes. If they do, they're more internally with extensions, re-signs, things of that nature, because they just don't have the money to work with. So I disagree with the notion that there's a concern level given Stearns' lack of ability in free agency in recent years, because that's him having his hands tied far more than it being a situation where he has a lack of interest. David Stearns came to Queens not only because he's a diehard Mets fan and gets to rule town, but he has resources like never before. The guy's a kid in a candy shop. Yes, he's working his tail off. Yes, there's so many things happening, but he's still doing the best he possibly can right now. And if there's anyone that has most on their plate this MLB offseason when evaluating present baseball operations, it's David Stearns. Enlighten me. What is one GM / present baseball operations this offseason that has a taller task since being hired? No one. Literally no one. Take away the fact that he just hired and came in the organization, and just like that Billy Epler, who he thought he'd be able to bank off of and work with, had to leave because of the scandal. That was a curveball thrown at him. They didn't expect that. They did not anticipate that. Entire new coaching staff. Entire new front office. Just like over the past couple years since Cohen became owner. We've went through a lot of these things already with complete revamps. But to suggest that, Stearns has it easy, or, David Stearns is sleeping, you have no effing clue what you are talking about. This guy has the tallest task amongst all front office execs in baseball right now. Tell me I'm wrong. Who has a taller task than David Stearns this offseason? Enlighten me. What, Brian Cashman? That's his own fault. It's his own fault. He put himself in that mess. David Stearns walked into this mess. There's a difference. Tyler, I can't believe it's been 2.5 years. It's been nuts. It's been nuts. It's actually been 3. It's been 3. Once we get in December, my first video on YouTube was, I think, December 1st, 2020, Trevor May signing. Crazy. First video covering the Mets, at least. Crazy stuff. What are my thoughts on Teoscar Hernandez? I'm quite a fan of Teoscar Hernandez. I don't think he's like the best thing to slice bread, but I do think he's someone that could definitely be productive, provide power, provide competent defense in the corner outfield at minimum, and, a guy that I do deem as a little bit of a bounce back candidate where he can get that OPS up from this past season. The little things, the average can get a little up too, possibly. I like Teo. He's definitely a guy I would welcome in Queens for more reasons than one. And he too is another guy that I plan on discussing in the near future should he not sign with a team before I get there. Assuming that isn't the Mets. Okay, Andy Martino just puts out, oh, of course I just lost it. As we've said all along, the Mets are going to sign 2, 3, or more of these mid to back rotation starting pitchers. This is merely one of them. So yes, no one should be shocked the Mets have more middle of the pack to back end rotation starters coming. The big one, the big behemoth again, is Yamamoto and then Monty. What's going to happen on that front? That is a great question, and we will soon find out. 10 likes away from 300, guys, and for people on replay, if we could get to 500 plus likes, that'd be really greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Almost at 4,000 views already. Concurring 800 really does mean a lot. I know for some of you guys, you might get turned off by me referencing the numbers, but again, as a creator that does this for a living, these things are most certainly important. They help not only drive us with what we're doing, but also the revenue is what makes this stay afloat for me to be able to do this as consistently as I do. You know, there are a lot of people that cannot or not able to have the privilege to do what I do because their availability just isn't there, right? You know, aside from things going on in my personal life, I'm grateful that I get to talk about the Mets for a living, and it's a very humbling feeling that I never try to take for granted. So just thank you all so much for the support as always, and like I said, we will be live again in the next hour, if not shorter than that. I got to hit up Michael Marino as soon as we're done here and see if we can get to go live again at 8 or if we have to push it to say 8:30. So stay tuned for that. But again, still around 60% of you believe that it depends on other moves to dictate your feelings on Sevy, and I completely understand that. Again, once more, appreciate everyone first chiming in live on a replay. Thank you for the 300 likes, guys. We are about to wrap up the live show now, so I highly implore you all to go from here and to get those notifications on in the waiting room for our next live show tonight. And stay tuned. Videos coming out tomorrow, another live show tomorrow, Friday. Big news on Friday. Not big news regarding the Mets making a move. That may very well happen. Big personal news on Friday that I will share with you all probably tomorrow. Need to get that finalized. Your boy will be on a separate platform that I'm excited to break down with you all. So just stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for it all. And as always, let's effing go Mets, baby. First splash of the offseason, whether you think it's a big splash or if you think it's like dropping a penny in you know, a fountain. They have signed Luis Severino to a 1-year, $13 million deal, hoping for a bounce-back year from Sevy. And, you know, for Sevy, hopefully he can get exactly that and then hit the market again on a more longer-term deal.